So welcome to those of you here. I think there's currently only one of you, but welcome. I'm going to be doing some prep work today, continuing what I've been doing every time I do a stream. If you've got any questions about what I'm up to, or if there's anything that looks particularly wrong, I'm just checking for the focus on the camera. If there's anything that looks a bit wonky to you, do let me know. What we're going to be working on today, or what I say we, I'm going to be working on today is a DAC, a Dactylioceras ammonite. It's fairly fresh out the cliff. You can always tell when they are because they have this lovely sort of pyrite, rusty coat on them. When they roll around for a while, this tends to come off and all you get left with is sort of a more browny, grey one. So that's sort of the difference between a fresh one on the left and one that's been rolling around on the right. What we're going to be doing, using a Dremmel 290 Engraver. I don't have a hardcore air scribe, so I have to work with what I got. So I'm a bit underpowered for some of the Yorshire material. It's just part and parcel of not having a full setup at the minute. But what we can already see before we get started is the ammonites come in these what are called nodules. So it's this limestone cap over the top. In Yorkshire, this limestone cap's normally very filled with iron pyrite, which is what gives it that rustiness. But it also means that if you can get down to the ammonite easily enough, the ammonites tend to be preserved really nicely as sort of an iron-rich shell. There is what looks to be a blowout of the fossil here, so this bit might not be preserved, which gives me concern that some of this inner section here will not be as well. And there's another bit up here that looks kind of interesting. There's a V missing out, and I just made a little short video on what's been nibbling on my ammonite, and this is something that you see on ammonites from Dorset, or at least that's the publication. It shows ammonites from Dorset have a V missing out of this top side, which is other ammonites nibbling on them. So kind of an interesting thing just to keep an eye out for. I haven't seen it very much in the Yorkshire ammonites, but that might just be that I'm not really looking for them. So something that's just there in the background. As I prep, if you got questions, do ask away. I will be keeping the chat visible. If you're not chatting, I will probably mute myself, and you get then I would say the calming music, but it's just sort of the chilled vibes music whilst I prep away. Otherwise you just hear this the whole time, which is just the Dremmel vibrating, and you can probably just about see that the tip on a Dremmel just is basically vibrating back and forth like a mini jackhammer or a dental tool. So that's what's going to be happening. I'll just have a quick look. This side's got more matrix. I think this side's got less matrix on it, so we'll be prepping this side down. So that's what we're at. That's what we're going to do. Do chuck questions, comments, thoughts in chat. I am always happy to talk about things, especially fossils. But otherwise I will just be prepping away. But already it's nice to see just doing the little bit. During prep, you get different stages. The first bit's cold roughing out, and what you generally try to do is just expose the edges of the ammonite all the way around where possible, getting down through most of the matrix so you're just about onto the fossil. So that's what we're going to be doing with the chisel tip on this Dremmel. We're just going to be roughing out this fossil, get it down to a level where we've almost exposed the ammonite all the way around, but there's going to be some fine detail left to be done. And I've got another one that's already at that stage, just off screen. So depending on how long this all takes, we might swap the tips out, go to the fine tip, get this one all tidied away, and then see if we can tidy that one away as well. Whilst I'm talking, if you hear little gentle click-clacks, it's my dog walking through the kitchen where I'm currently prepping. Her toenails need a clip, so she makes a lovely click-clack noise as she wanders around. And if you're watching and just trying to figure out what I'm doing as I'm prepping, this tool just vibrates back and forwards, slowly chipping away. You try not to apply too much force to it. You'll see if I start applying a lot of force, normally it takes a big jump, particularly when it just gets away a piece of matrix. So some of this limestone, when it gives way, if you're watching and I'm putting too much force on to make it go, you'll see that the whole tool will kind of jump a long way forward. When I'm getting closer to the rock, I'll be a lot more careful anyway, and so you'll see me slow right down, so that any jumps, if it happens, are very, very small. Don't want to be chipping into the fossil with the tool if we can help it, and we can definitely help it. Oh, I guess the other thing I could be talking about at this point, well, it's just me here, but it makes me feel better. Makes me feel like I'm announcing it, is there is the fossil giveaway still underway at the minute. We are getting awfully close to triggering the first of the giveaways, which is that we just needed 250 subscribers for the channel. We're at 240 as of, well, earlier today. Hopefully not losing many by doing this live. So we'll hit 250 hopefully in the next couple of days. Once we do, I'll sort out a giveaway. It's one of the ammonites that was shown in the giveaway announcement video. There's a bunch of them that have come from Brunswick Bay. Oh no, sorry, was it? Yeah, it is. Sorry, yeah, there is a bunch of ammonites from Brunswick Bay of various shapes and sizes and preservation. That people will be able to choose from. So once we get 250, I will organize the draw for that. The easiest way to enter is just make a comment on this video, the giveaway video, one of the Port Mulgrave videos, I don't really care at this point. Chuck it on one of the videos saying your favorite fossil that either I found or prepped, which video or prep stream or whatever it is on, and that enters you. I'll ship the fossils anywhere in the world. And it's completely free for you to enter, so well worth doing, in my opinion. Get yourself a free ammonite from Yorkshire. If we get either 1,000 views or on one video or 1,500 across both of the last two videos from Port Mulgrave, I'll do another 1 or 2 ammonites depending on which of those 2 targets we achieve. So well worth doing. Well worth just putting a comment. It doesn't take much time, but it also helps me to understand what you guys are really liking to see and prep. So please do just check out that announcement video, or just go on to any of the Port Mulgrave ones from the last, well, not even 7 days now, and yeah, just write it in there what you enjoyed and you get yourself entered. And at the minute I think there's only a handful of entries that have done it properly, so it'd be fairly high chances of winning yourself an ammonite. At least that way I now feel like I've at least announced it again. It's at the beginning of the video, so there's no excuses for people not to know about it. I think it's in the details of all my other videos that I've released recently, so should be good. And hello to whoever is lurking in my chat, welcome. Just prepping a deck to the Osprey's ammonite from Yorkshire. It's going to be fairly chilled vibes as I'm just doing this. Obviously, if you got any questions about what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, anything paleontological, chuck it in chat. Happy to talk. If you've got geological things you want to chat about, I can try. My geology knowledge is limited to my undergrad, which was increasingly many years ago, and only half of my undergrad degree was geology related things, so no guarantees that I'll be able to. Likewise for biology, always happy to chat. But my specialty has drifted very far from my undergrad biology and geology days. Hello, hello. I'm good, thank you. How are you doing? Sussy Baka is such a great name. That's a very Among Us reference. But I'm good, thank you. How are you doing, mate? Well, I'd say, as I was just talking about there, I don't know if you heard, I got a giveaway going on at the minute. When I hit 250 subscribers, or get over 1,000 comments on one video or 1,500 on the last two, I will send some ammonites to whoever has written in one of my last two videos about their favorite fossil on the channel. And I will then send you a fossil worldwide, wherever you are. So if you've never got one, it's a good way to get yourself a free one. What am I doing? I'm quite happy to just stop and just talk you through it. So I've got an ammonite. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Can you not hear me? Has my microphone stopped working? No, it should be working. Can you not hear me? Give me 1 second. I thought my microphone should be picking this up. Give me 1 second. So my microphone seems to be working. I can hear it on my own stream on the secondary video I've got up just to check my tech side of things. So I'm sorry, Sussy Baka, can you not hear me? And my microphone is live and picking up me speaking. Okay, so here we go. As long as you can hear it. Right, so multiple things. First things first, as I was trying to explain, if you like fossils but never got one, running a giveaway at the minute, free fossil potential for you. Just make sure that you make a comment on one of the last videos, and all you need to do is say the favorite fossil from my channel, whether it's one I found or prepped, and that automatically enters you into the giveaway. The giveaway then is for an ammonite that was featured in the video that's 3 videos ago that says fossil giveaway, I think it is. And as long as you've entered, you're into the chance, and I will be sending those fossils worldwide free of charge to people. So if you want one, good way to do it, make a comment about something that you found that you really enjoyed. Second bit, what am I doing? I am prepping an ammonite at the minute. So this is a Dactyliosauros ammonite from Yorkshire. It was found, kind of looks like this on the other side, and so you could just see the outside edge of it coming around on both sides, and again you could see the same on the other side. So then what I'm doing is using a Dremmel 290 engraver, which is one of these. It is an electrical engraver, so what it does is this little tip just vibrates back and forth like a little mini jackhammer, and what it does is then chips away rock. With regard to you wanting to find one yourself, where do you live? That will be the first big question of how easy it is to find one. Every country pretty much has ammonite, or has fossils of some description, sorry, not ammonites, but has fossils. I do not know every country's fossils off the top of my head, but nearly every country will have a fossil of some description. Where I grew up, all the fossils were much more recent than the dinosaurs. Where I live now, all the rocks are dinosaur age and older for the most part. So it varies. I do use Discord, although that's restricted to my gaming and not my fossils. Yeah, so India, you've got loads of fossils in India. You've got actually possibly one of the most interesting areas for dinosaur age material, because you have a region in the Deccan region called the Deccan Traps, which is a series of large volcanic eruptions that happen around the time the dinosaurs go extinct. And so there's a lot of layers of rock with dinosaurs and lava intermixed with each other. And they've had nests and things coming out that I've seen in the last couple of years. And a taka near lake. Sorry, I do not know where that is off the top of my head, but you've also got lots of fossils up because of the Himalayas, bringing all the different layers of rock from the ground up into the air. So you've got all sorts of seashells and things up there. Tamil Nadu, I've been lucky enough to go down and visit and fossil hunt there for Cretaceous dinosaurs and mammals and fish. So if you are finding lots of rocks and hitting them and not finding fossils, it's very possible that the rocks that you're looking in are not the right rocks. So there are three different sets of rocks. We have igneous, the ones that are basically coming out of the ground, out of lava. Those will never have fossils in them because they are molten rocks. The next set that we have are sedimentary, and these are the ones that will have the highest chance of having fossils in them. They're the things that are basically any rock broken down, lots of small little bits of it floating around, burying whatever there might be. And so sometimes you'll have absolutely nothing in them, sometimes you can have things like ammonites in them. Your specific region, I will not know. Alright, thanks for trying, mate. Yeah, so kind of a good point for anyone who's listening. Where do you find fossils? Nearly everywhere that I know of will have a local geology or fossil thing. That might just be a very British thing, but I know a lot of the places in the US will also have rock hunting groups. A lot of it will also come down to the protection level of the rocks in that country or that state. So it will depend an awful lot on where you are. But the next step would also be nearly every large country will have had a geological survey of it done at some point. So some geologists will have gone around looking at the various rocks and how they go together to help figure out how old everything is. Usually looking for minerals, oil, whatever it happens to be, but during those surveys they tend to be really good for figuring out how old the rocks are and fossils that might be in those rocks at the same time. So if you ever get a chance, geological surveys through your your local geology groups. Always worth doing. Or if in doubt, check which universities nearby have a geology department, because they will almost certainly have resources. I do appreciate, again, that some small countries may not have those things. Give me 1 second. It's a lot more difficult to type whilst I'm trying to do fossil prep though, because I have to put down all the tools and take my dusty hands out to do this. So I'm relying very much on my microphone for most of this whilst I'm working, otherwise nothing gets done. Anyway, I do apologise, but I am very restricted to what I can do at the minute, so you're just going to have to bear with. I'm either talking like this and prepping, or I'm not prepping and just typing, which I tend to find is far less exciting, and do apologise. So yeah, that would be my best bet suggestion for anyone ever looking for fossils. Don't find the random person on the side of the road that's selling you the fossils or trying to sell you fossils or rocks as something weird and exotic. Go speak to your local departments first. Nearly everywhere has them. For the person who's from India, there's going to be plenty of geology groups, surveys, universities with geology departments. So there'll be plenty of resources and people to speak to about where you might go find fossils. With that being said, just be aware, because a lot of people who aren't highly trained see interesting shapes in rocks and believe them all to be fossils. So it's just to be careful. Use those resources, use the people, because it's your best bet. They will have a lot more information about your local area than I ever could hope to have. But yeah, so with regard back to rocks and where to look for them, there's the three types of rocks: igneous, the volcanic ones; sedimentary are the ones that are made from sediments, be they igneous, other sedimentary rocks that have been broken down and turned back into sediment that gets buried; or metamorphic rocks that are the third type of rocks, and again they can be broken down, turned into sediment, and then you can get stuff in them. Best bet for fossils, anything sedimentary. Because it's made up of sediments, there are more likely to be living things in amongst them, or remains of living things in and amongst them, whereas volcanic ones, the igneous ones, you won't get any fossils in because they tend to destroy everything. Obviously there's some exceptions, but for the most part, use that as your rule of thumb. Is if it's volcanic, you're not going to have any fossils in it. Metamorphic ones are variable, depends on under what level of metamorphism the rock has undergone. So when rocks get buried, they tend to be undergo high quantities of pressure and temperatures, which is how the rocks metamorphose, so they change the minerals and everything within them due to this temperature and pressure change. So those tend to have fewer fossils, or at least fewer well-preserved fossils in them due to these pressure and temperature changes. So if you're looking, you want to make sure you're ideally finding sedimentary rocks. If you want to find fossils in general, your best bet is to be looking in either terrestrial sediments or shallow-ish water. Deep water sediments do have fossils in them, but they tend to be rarer to find because there's a lot of, as you think about the Earth today, there's a lot of deep water and not a lot of things living in the deep water. So you're relying very much on something floating down to the deep water. So then, if you go for sedimentary, going for something that's either terrestrial, you want to find something that's generally low energy environment. Low energy means that you get small particle sizes for the sediment, which means that basically you're looking at like muds and sands. So fairly small things, because obviously if you've got a high energy environment with giant boulders, all your fossils, if they are there, are going to get smashed to pieces by these giant boulders rolling around. So again, you want to be looking for sort of the ideal environments, and that's also why shallow water, so lakes, marines, rivers, tend to produce the best fossils, because they've got that right balance of small particles, lots of sediment burying them, so that fossils, or solid animals, or remains, whatever they are, bones, shells, get buried quickly, and that tends to be where you find your best ones. So there's a lot of requirements for fossils. Obviously I say this like that's how all of them are. There's obviously every rule, there's an exception to it, but in general that's what you need to be looking for. So if you're looking and smashing lots of rocks that are igneous or metamorphic, your odds of finding a fossil are fairly low. Obviously, as I said, there's exceptions to that. I know across large chunks of the USA and even in the UK, the older rocks, the Silurian, the Devonian age ones, so you're looking at like 350, 450 million years ago. A lot of the rocks there are that old, that they've nearly all undergone some level of metamorphism. But where you find the trilobites and things like that, they are metamorphic, but not so heavily damaged and decomposed that you can't find fossils in them. So it's just very much being aware of what the rocks are and where there are fossils found. When I go fossil hunting in a new site, I've got plenty of resources online, but when you get to the place that you're fossil hunting, have a look at what everyone else has been doing. Chances are you're not the first in a site. Obviously there are exceptions to that, but if you're brand new to fossil hunting, go to somewhere that you know people are finding fossils. Have a look at what rocks people are hitting in that site. You'll see them fairly easily because of all these split rocks or broken, or bits of that fossil that are broken within those rocks. And that'll give you a good idea of what you should be looking for. So that'd be my suggestion. Those are the obvious things to do. And so when I go to a new site around Yorkshire, most of the material looks very similar, but you just keep an eye out because you never know. There might be bits that are completely and utterly different to what you're used to seeing, and so just keep an eye out because someone will have been there having a look before you, almost certainly. And just have a look at what they're looking at, or look what they were hitting, and chances are you'll see some of their fossil remains or broken bits that they didn't take on, and so you know what you're looking for. Hey Mr. Landfill, welcome back. You joined me, I'd say, I would say halfway in, but I think that's probably a very bad estimate of where I'm actually at with this one. But it's going reasonably well. Nice little deck to the Osphorus Ammonite. You haven't missed very much. I've been talking about all sorts of goodies. I had a gentleman, I had a person from India join, was asking why they're not finding ammonites in the rocks that they're hitting, or fossils there in the rocks that they're hitting. So I had a discussion about where you might find fossils and which rocks are the best. I'd like to remind everyone to make sure you get yourself entered into the fossil giveaway. If you're not sure what to do, now's a good time to ask. We are getting awfully close to the 250 subscribers. We'll be there probably in the next 2 days. So a big thank you to everyone who has subscribed. But make sure you make a comment on one of the videos about the favourite fossils on the channel so far, and yeah, I'll get you entered and I will send those fossils worldwide free of charge. yeah, with lots of landfill, you haven't missed too much with this prep. It's another Dactylioceras ammonite, so where we're at with it at the minute. Oh, geez, scary to be losing huge quantities of weight. I guess it depends on whether it's getting you down to a healthy weight or putting you into a dangerous weight, and it sounds like they're taking off all of them. It's not the good weight loss. So sorry to hear that that's not been great. And I hope your doctors will be able to fix that all up with a bit of time and possibly some different meds. So I don't know, I can't remember who's commented what. I think the requirement was just your favorite find on one of the vids, on one of the last. So sorry, let me start again. So any of the finds on any of the videos, but you just need to make a comment on one of the last two with your favorite find or fossil prep and which video it's from. So for example, if this becomes your favorite prep, you just go onto one of those two Port Mulgrave videos, say Dactylioceras or just ammonite prep, and then say live video and this link to live video. That's all it is for the entry requirements. I haven't seen many people actually do that full thing, so if that's the case, I may have to just make the entry requirement a little bit of just, I like all of the fossils and not worry about linking it. But I was hoping that if people would link some of the fossils that they really like, that people would then see some more of the finds and perhaps on the channel. What's the logic behind it? But if no one's doing it, then it kind of self-defeating. And I'd much rather be able to give away an ammonite, so don't overstress if you haven't done those things. But yeah, just make sure you've commented on them somewhere, and we will get given away ammonites. Oh, that's great news that you're healthy then. Huge success. Glad to hear. And I hope that with that loss then, that you'll be able to get out with your backpack and get hiking and fossiling and rock hounding even better than before. Oh, actually, talking of which, let me see if I can find something to just chuck in chat. We had a quick discussion about fossil hunts and volunteer opportunities, and I saw one pop up the other day. It is by no means the only one or the best one, and this is by no means me saying this is the one to apply for. But if anyone is interested in volunteering on a fossil dig, have a read of that, contact the person who's in charge if you're interested, and see about getting yourself on it. So there's a couple of digs that they're out to do, this crew. They're looking for volunteers, and they give you the details of what you'll be doing, well, sort of what you'll be doing, what your camp would be like, where you'd need to be, what dates, what to expect. So have a look at that if you're interested in doing a dino dig or a fossil dig. I suspect they're doing dinos based on where they're going. And if in doubt, send Kerry a message. He's a nice guy. So, best I can offer you for a lot of people. But a cool opportunity I saw. Yeah, as to say, when I got a really bad chest infection well before COVID times, but when I got a really bad one, when walking up a flight of steps, you had to stop after halfway. It was brutal. So very sympathetic to it, and yeah, glad to hear that you are now able to really make the most of it. And I also do apologise. I appreciate that typing is a lot slower than talking, so I jump between conversations and I'm well ahead of the conversation you have as you're typing it, so I do apologise. I also don't talk slowly, much to everyone's annoyance when I talk science. Just going to keep working away on this. This will take a little bit of time, so it's going to be a bit quiet. So if people got conversation topics, chuck them in. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep working away at this, slowly letting the machine do the work. It takes away chunks of rock, as you can probably see in the background, all the little bits of rock from all the many fossils I've been trucking. Yeah, so apologies to those of you who do not live in the US, but again, that's where most of the digs tend to be, or at least most of the free volunteer ones. Those of you in Europe, your best bets will be there's a place in Spain, there's a place in Portugal, and a place in France, to my knowledge, that there's regular digs at. But even those, I don't think I've ever seen an advert for them as free digs, whereas in the US there are free digs. So it's very much just the reality, unfortunately. I'm sorry to say, Europe and anywhere else in the world, I'm saying Europe, but I don't know where Crafty Rep is from. Australia, for example, will be a long trek away to get to this. But yeah, I mean, I only saw about that digs volunteer crew thing through Twitter, so for all its many flaws, there are some scientists still doing some good communications on it, and so you can keep an eye out for things. There's also a few good Facebook groups that the people occasionally advertise things like this in, and where possible I will try and advertise them either through my Twitter or this channel, because obviously that'd be cool to hear from you guys if you guys are all getting out on digs or exploring yourselves what you're getting up to. I'd love to hear it. Otherwise, yeah, I was just thinking there are a very few handful of digs that ever happen in the UK each year. Most of them tend to be on the Isle of Skye, and to my knowledge, the crews that go out there tend to be professors plus students from the university rather than taking volunteers from outside. Occasionally the Isle of Wight has something that they need volunteers for, but again, I think that seems to go very quickly to a handful of students across the southwest. So I can't ever say it's a good one if you happen to live in the UK. You can volunteer on. There's one of the things that I know I would have loved more of when I was doing my degree is to have an opportunity to get out digging in the UK. Just there isn't the same opportunity. It's the hilarious side effect of us being a wet country is whilst we have a shed load of erosion happening on the coast because of the rain and the tides and the cold and the hot, the centre of our country is very temperate. and all of those green hills mean that you don't see any rocks underneath it unless you go up to like Scotland, where it's all barren cliffs. But yeah, because there's no rock exposures except in quarries and on the cliffs by the sea, we just don't have very many fossils exposed regularly, so there's no opportunity for dino digs or other fossil digs. Whereas in the US they've got plenty of areas of the Badlands, as they call it, where you get pretty harsh summers and pretty harsh winters, and so not a huge amount grows, and therefore you keep your rock exposed, it keeps eroding, you keep finding dinosaurs. So places like the Dakotas, Montana, Colorado, Utah all have incredible exposures and therefore incredible rocks. And great fossils. They just have to be the right age where this is all happening as well. So yeah, that's just unfortunately the reality. I miss digging. I want to go out and dig again. It's been a while. They're good fun. I know if you read that link, it's camp is basic. It always was. Some of them are a bit more advanced now. I know the Museum of the Rockies camps tend to have a caravan that tends to have Wi-Fi from it. But most of the camps that I went to early days, they were very much, you were camping, you had an outhouse for the bathroom if you were lucky. The Museum of the Rockies cruise, which I think Kerry used to be part of, do a day in town every week. Usually like they go in on a Friday, have a Saturday in there and then come back out sort of thing, get themselves a shower, some proper food. But even the one I went to with the University of Alberta, big group in Edmonton, when we went to Dinosaur Provincial Park, we had one town day, and I was there for 2.5 weeks, I think it was. So it varies an awful lot depending on which crew you go with and where they are and what they do. Likewise with their facilities. The bigger the crew, the bigger the camp, generally the better facilities they have, but not always. It also will depend an awful lot on which very wealthy person is funding it, if there is. Every once in a while you'll see that a dig has had a lot of money thrown at it by someone. So the University of Chicago have been out to Niger recently and had some pretty cool finds. It looks like they might have got some Spinosaur material. So I'll be interested to see what comes of that. To my knowledge, Paul Serino managed to convince a few very wealthy benefactors to chuck some money at the dig. And so they then went to a place that doesn't normally get explored. So I'm sure what they found is going to be spectacular. I'm still waiting to see it. The big conferences tend to be where the best finds get announced, and that'll be September time, so we'll have to see. And also there's a lot of stuff that people know about that just can't talk about. And so I've heard and seen some really cool fossils that, even though I'm no longer really in the field, I can't really discuss. So it will be interesting to see. Nearly all of it always makes its way out to the general public in time. It's just how long it takes to go from finding to preparation to publication to then being public knowledge. And that can be many, many years, if not decades, depending on the actual fossil. And I'm sorry this is not more exciting at the minute. It's just taking its sweet, sweet time to get rid of this lump of limestone on the top. I don't know if you can actually see, I can sort of see the surface on this rock is very shiny. You can see the large quantity of pyrite in it just from that, and you just see the sort of the metal sheen. This rock's not too bad. I got a few in the garden that I'll pull out at some point, probably on the next video where I do some sort of ammonite splits. Where I've been trying to do the prep, I've actually left it because I just couldn't get through it with this tool. And so what it's actually got now is, instead of it being like this where it's grey, this has all become a pyrite lump, and it's all shiny and gold, like fool's gold, just sitting on the top of the ammonite. It's like, oh, that's why I couldn't get through it. Yeah, that sums up Yorkshire rocks very well. And yeah, what else to talk about? Oh yeah, I guess there's a new video already kind of complete. I need to double check it, but it's a very different one. It's a little bit of geology and kind of a sign of something completely differently, but more closely related to the fact that I've got a background in paleontology and not just a very enthusiastic amateur. It was my career for a while. Doing the research side of things and studying fossils. So it's a little bit about one of the ammonites actually that I found, and some things that these ammonites can tell us about what was alive at the same time with them. So assuming that all goes well and the checks are good on it, it rendered just before I started stream. But assuming all of that looks okay, that'll go live probably on Friday. And it's only like a 4-minute long thing. It took a long time for 4 minutes. Turns out it's much easier to just make a fossil hunting video or just walking around doing my thing anyway. And then just cropping down clips. But trying to make it from scratch the other way around was hard work. So I hope everyone likes it when it comes out. Also, it's the first chance that I show off some of my fossil collection as well, so if you're interested in seeing it, keep an eye out for it. You can see some bits and pieces of the collection in the background in it. But it's surprisingly quiet at the minute in the chat. I hope I'm not just talking to the void and there's no one actually here. Oh, if there is anyone here, well, no problem, I guess. It just makes me feel a little bit special that I'm just talking to myself. now I just have concern that my mic's not working ever since the first conversation with Sussy Baka in chat. He wasn't hearing me very well. So I hope people are still hearing me on the microphone based on the fact that I had a quick chat with Mr. Landfill there. Says obviously it's partly working at least. It's promising to know. Slowly getting there. Nearly the entire outer edge exposed. Yeah, I had a cool day last week when I got back my fossils. You've all probably seen far too much of my beautiful ammonite I'm supremely proud of. So I got that back as well as an ichthyosaur spine, the one I found also at Port Mulgrave a couple of weeks back. The Yorshire fossils lads, well their father, Mark Smith, did all the prep on them. They look stunning. But yeah, they post onto some of the Facebook groups in the UK. There's a Yorkshire Fossil Hunters Facebook group, and he put up today that they've gone and found an entire ichthyosaur paddle, and it looks absolutely stunning as well. And just there's no doubting what it is just based on what they've picked up, and it's just really cool to see. And I'm very jealous because I would like one. So clearly need to get myself back out there. But the tides are not ideal for me trying to get there at the minute. I live just far enough away that I have to think about how to do it. Turn this off for a second. Yeah, so one day we'll learn to start a sentence without saying so first, but not today. But yeah, we've got ammonite end here coming around, compressed or missing section here, continues around so we can see there's a bit here exposed. So that should continue all the way around, and we'll keep looping in. We've got a little bit more exposed there as well. Therefore it's going pretty well. I would like to get rid of this big lump in the middle here because that will help speed things along if we can get rid of this. That's my goal at the minute. It's just to tidy this off and keep working down. But it's a very slow process with the air scribe and Yorkshire material. Very slow process, but a very good way to learn. Because the more power you have, the easier it is to do it wrong. And therefore damage something. The other really cool thing I guess I should have been talking about, but I don't know why I didn't mention it. I got asked last week, I think it was, about the cover picture on my YouTube channel. Is me in a red shirt by a giant leg, and the giant leg is from a dinosaur called Protagotitan. And last night they had the launch party for the skeleton at the Natural History Museum. So they've got a copy of the Protagotitan skeletons. They've now got one in the Natural History Museum in London, and it looks cool, the mount. It basically takes up one of their entire rooms. It's just enormous. So if you haven't yet seen that, I appreciate that not everyone's in the UK, but you could just check the news on it. It's on quite a lot. If you just type in Protagotitan, kind of like if you imagine Patagonia and Titan, it should be there. So yeah, they'll be showing its mount in the Natural History Museum in London. It's very cool. Very cool specimen. The little tiny museum, Museo de Figo, something else, I've forgotten the full thing, MEF, down in Patagonia has done really well out of that find. The seven individual Titans have allowed them to build a fairly complete one, and it's now casted it now in several museums. So there's one in the American Museum of Natural History in New York, there's one in Chicago, there's one in the Natural History Museum in London now. The New York mount is really cool. Sorry, bear with me, the dog is asking to go out, let me just let her out. Now we'll be right back. Yeah, so the American Museum of Natural History is my favourite mount of it so far, just because it was so bloody big. They mounted it with its head popping out of the gallery and into the main corridor. Again, really bloody cool. But it's just so stupidly big. Like, I don't know how to describe it really. It's stupid. It's just so huge. When I only come up to its effectively elbow. And then it's got another 2, 4, 6 of those worth of height to go. Yeah, it's silly. But well worth checking out because it's a beautiful, beautiful animal. Bear with me. I have yet to follow Mr. Landfill's advice of a 4 cross screwdriver, screw, rather than the Phillips head. This screw comes loose, and I haven't got Loctite or anything to hold it in place, so it's a bit of a pain in the butt, but it works perfectly fine most of the time, and then every once in a while it'll just come undone. There you go. I do appreciate a few of you being here just watching away as I just get on with it. I know it is not the most thrilling, this bit. It gets a lot more exciting as we get down to the actual fossil all the way around, and pretty much every move exposes more of it. But let's do the base prep work first. Where we're at the minute, doing the roughing it out. And as you can see, it's just a slow and steady process of just moving the tool around, letting the machine do the work, and just slowly popping off all the bits of rock all the way around. So yeah, welcome to those of you who keep showing up and then rapidly disappearing because I'm not talking, just seeing me slowly prepping a fossil. Do drop a message in chat. I will try and communicate whilst doing this. Sometimes do better at it than others. Also, if you give me a topic, I will just talk about a topic for an hour if you'd much rather. But to give you a quick rundown of where I'm at, what I'm doing, got a Dexiliosauris ammonite. Slowly being exposed. We are getting there. This takes a while with a proper set of tools, which is the goal ultimately. This will take 20-30 minutes to do one of these, whereas at the minute it'll take me about an hour to do one of these, and the rest probably. When did we start? Yeah, we're already at an hour. So probably another hour. So yeah, it's a big difference in time. But the difference between a 30 quid device or £30 device and a setup that's going to cost probably several $1,000s or pounds to get the air compressor, to get the high-tech air scribes, to get the tips for those. It costs money, and unfortunately I do not have it in abundance at the minute to just spend on this. Yeah, thanks, man. I agree. I mean, part of it's just the tools, as I said. They're good tools. Cruise through this material. Mam Lambo did his own giveaway of some Yorshire material, and he did a prep of one of these using his tools, and he did it in like no time. It was hilarious to watch just the difference. A, he's got a lot more experience prepping than I do, but B, he's just got some really good tools for doing it, and he made it look easy, and it made me feel really sad because of how long it takes me to do it. But at the same time, I enjoy this. It's really relaxing for me to just do this slowly but surely, and I can chat to you all as I go, and that's quite nice as well. Whereas if I was doing it with a higher pressure tool and it was chipping this away at a really high rate of knots, I probably would have to be paying a lot more attention to it. I'm just slowly going to just be chipping this away in the middle and not worry too much about it, because I'm quite a long way from any of the ammonite. I am going to just do the shameless plug again. I don't know how many new people are here who won't have heard it yet, but I am running an ammonite giveaway at the minute. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, put a comment on one of the last 2 videos from Port Mulgrave about favourite fossil that I found on the channel, or prepped, or even, to be honest, I don't really mind at this point, but the whole point of it is to try and get some people to see a variety of fossils on the channel that they may not have seen if they're brand new. Oh yeah, and it's just so cool what Mam Lambo does. I'm supremely jealous of A, his fossils, but B, him having the time and the ability to prep them the way he does. Even his plesiosaur vertebrae are stunning things that he's prepped. Yeah, I'd love to. My fiance's got family out in New Zealand, so we're already having a discussion about going out to New Zealand, and I already pre-warned her that if we're going that way, I'm going to see if I can meet up with him, because I think it'd just be fun to go on a fossil hunt with him, because I think he'd just be a great laugh as well whilst we're out there. And I wouldn't say no to having one of his little, one of those little crabs. Ideally not his like 200 kilo block of crab that he's pulled out, but one of the little cute ones would be cool. I just can't get over how common they are there as well. I just assumed crabs would just be not fossilized very easily, and yeah, they pull so many out. I do also need to ask him actually what the next thing on this list is to find, because he spent so long looking for his penguin. Now he's got his penguin and he's donating it away. I'm curious what his next big find that he's after is. He's also got his billfish, he's got all sorts of goodies there. His whale. Yeah. And I was going to say, as I said, I think it'd be really fun to go fossil hunting with him. It's what I was trying to say to one of the guys who was in chat earlier from India. I think one of the best resources there is just to go find people who know or who fossil hunt, or even are linked to the geology groups nearby, and they'll know about the rocks that are in the area. And if there's fossils and they're interested, they're always the ones to go speak to, get to know, have you go out with them. They'll know the tips, the tricks, where to go, what you're looking for. And I don't think I've found many grumpy paleontologists when they're out in the field. Normally where they all would much rather be than in the departments. And if you get one of the amateurs, and I know Mamalongo would count himself as an amateur, even though he's finding better stuff than most of the professionals will be, just because he's not making his living with it. The enthusiastic amateurs are just, it's crazy how good they are at finding some of this stuff. Most of the ones in Yorkshire, most of the best hunters, they're all amateurs. Some of them have turned it into a living, but for the most part they were, or at least they started off as amateurs. And if they're making a living now, it's because they're doing guided hunts as well as fossil preps, whilst also selling off some of their finds. But they always seem to be a good laugh. Always fun to see what they're up to on the Facebook chats. You can see they're always having banter and laughs with each other. The ones that are not so nice tend to not last very long in the field. Yeah, I was going to say, lots of places I'd love to go fossil hunting. New Zealand would be up there, just because of Mamalongo. I have to say it would never have even been on my list prior to seeing his channel. But yeah, his finds always just are so diverse and interesting, depending on where he's at. And a lot of that's also credit to him for making it so interesting on his channel. But before that, Mongolia remains my dream place to go, ever since I was a kid. Hearing about the adventures with Roy Chapman Andrews, who's often, his name is often thrown out as one of the inspirations for Indiana Jones. his expeditions to Mongolia, just the first dinosaur eggs, just everything about it sounded really cool. So that's always been on top of my list. But yeah, it's fun. Yeah, I really wish I could also get the sound of the Engraver to be negligible. That will be something that if I ever get a better setup, I'm hoping will be able to be reduced to quite a low level, because on the air scribes they make noise themselves, but most of the noise is the air compressor, and you can then put the air compressor in a different room or outside or wherever you happen to want to put it, but you can get it away from the actual pen, and the pen itself makes a little whine usually just as the air escapes. Obviously it varies from pen to pen. So that would be the big difference, and something that when I get them one day, kind of what I'm slowly hoping the channel will start being able to do is generate sufficient interest and potentially some funds to help go towards being able to buy that setup. Because that's what I want to do. I'd love to be able to do it. I'm glad you guys don't notice it. I've got headphones on and I still hear it. But yeah, it is one of those things, you do get very used to that noise, but it's the same repetitive noise over and over again. And I get very used to it very quickly as well. So I always laugh with people. As part of my research, I've done like CT scans and MRI scans and stuff like that, and I volunteered to go into an MRI myself and get a head MRI scan. I fell asleep in it, and people were like, how the hell did you fall asleep in an MRI? They're notoriously loud, and it was a repetitive thumping every once in a while. You just got used to the pattern of it, and yeah, I just fell asleep. Which is probably not what you're supposed to do in an MRI scan, but good way to spend an hour or two. And those scans actually are being used by my PhD student now, so that'll be fun to see what he comes up with. He's busy seeing if you can build a computer model of all my muscles in my skull, or at least all the ones associated with mastication, so eating, biting, chewing, that sort of stuff. And he's busy trying to see if he can put in the muscle activations which we measured on me doing certain behaviors, and see if he can make a computer model behave like I did. And the last results I saw on Monday looked promising. There was some tweaking to be done, but looked very promising. That's the other fun things. As the channel goes, not just fossil hunting, but also, as I said, some researchy things, some paleo, sciencey things. I will probably feature his research down the line. Also because I'm so damn heavily involved in it. Yeah, really fun seeing that all work. And then the hope is that using this computer model, he'll be able to then modify it to the form of some of the prehistoric human species, and see if we can get a better understanding of how they're feeding, what they're feeding on, how their skulls are performing under different feeding loads. So we'll see. But that's what he's doing. He's got probably another 6 months left of it. Another PhD, so we should have some answers relatively soon. But that's the standard PhD and academia soon TM, where in reality it could be any length of time. It takes as long as it takes. And if to get it right, then to have to withdraw your article and correct it all and submit it again. It's better to get it right the first time. So yeah, you can see we're getting on pretty well at the minute. I do like when the outer layer of a deck isn't too horrific, but the inside is pyrite, because it does make it really good to try and prep around, because the matrix then pops off of it. But when the matrix is as hard as the ammonite, it does make it tricky. Sorry, bear with me. I'm just going to adjust the tip. It seems to be rotating, even though it seems to be also simultaneously locked in. So I don't know how that bit of science works. Fixed but movable. Because it means I'm holding the Dremel at a weird angle to try and avoid the cable hitting the glass, to avoid the noise of that too. There we go. So, depends on the fossil. MRI won't work because MRI works on soft tissues. But CT scan, X-ray, neutron scan, synchrotron scan, which is a high energy X-ray or high energy CT effectively. Yeah, they all are done and have been done for decades now. Depends on your questions, really. Now that I've unscrewed the screw, it's loosened off, but I can keep talking to you whilst I go. So, X-ray has its uses to basically just have a quick look in the rock and figure out what's in the rock. Because it doesn't do 3D, it has limited use for research or experimental stuff, but is used in certain places like the Green River Formation. I don't know how well you guys know your things, but if you've ever seen a fish fossil in the USA, chances are it comes from the Green River in Wyoming. Well, Wyoming, Montana, wherever else. It's a massive set of lakes from the Eocene. But the Green River Formation, a lot of the quarries there, because it's in layers, and unless you happen to split the right layer, you don't necessarily know what's in, say, the next layer. And it's really thin layers, like sheets of paper worth of rock in these lake beds. And so they will often, if they've got suspected remains of something more interesting, just X-ray it, because it's quicker than trying to split the rocks, and it's no risk or low risk of damage to your specimen. So X-ray is used, but in general is normally just what's here, what's in the rock. If I had access to an X-ray machine, would chuck a lot of things through it just as a check of like, does this look complete? Is it worth poking about at it? There is a limit to how effective that is, though, because X-rays only pass through certain materials. They struggle with high density stuff. I talked about what I'm prepping. I'm prepping ammonites. Let's see if you can see it. Yeah, you might just see that it's a nice gold color, and a gold color is iron pyrite, so it's dense as all hell. So X-rays struggle to get through it. So they produce the same issue with a CT scan. Sorry. of pyrite-rich rock is you get what's called starburst patterns, and basically you get just like a white little star in your scan where pyrite blobs are, and with a lot of the Yorshire material, it's all pyrite, so you get this giant glowing bits in the rocks, which makes seeing anything else very difficult. The next one, CT scans. Yeah, they've been used for a while, so the late 90s, early 2000s, people started CT scanning things in earnest, and yeah, now that pretty much anything that people can get their hands on, if it's near a CT scanner, will go through a CT scanner. Not just for research, but also to help them prepare things. So I know Anne will have seen Mam Lambo's video about his neutron scan of his whale jaw. So that neutron scan, same principle as a CT scan or an X-ray, just using neutrons instead of X-rays as your high energy particles that you're banging at the structure. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, so you can use them to prep your fossils as well. So by being able to see into the rock, you can see where the different fossils are, the different bits are, so there's lower risk, in theory, of you damaging the fossil, because you know in theory where all the big things are. And it's been taken to the extreme now. If you get a really good scan of some of these things, there's actually no point prepping them fully, because the object has survived 180 million years in its rock. What makes it unstable is when you pull it out of its rock, and so in theory the less fiddling with the original fossil you do, the better it will stay preserved, and you never know what new techniques will come along that will be better for scanning or preparing, and so where possible people tend to say, if you don't, for example, if I didn't need this ammonite out of its rock, I don't really need it out of its rock, but I'm doing it because I enjoy it and I want to do something with the ammonite. But if I didn't want to, that ammonite would be a lot better to be left with its cap on both sides in a well-controlled environment and just left to it, and then it will be perfectly fine, probably for the next 180 million years. But because I want to get it out, I have to do this. You'll have seen me put varnish on the outside of them to try and help cover them and protect them. But you, by doing that, already expose it to, or more of it, to the elements. You've exposed it to the moisture. You run the risk of it getting damaged by picking it up, handling it. You've got less protection for it. So increasingly the prep work and even the research work relies on CTs, MRIs, and us doing increasingly little to destructively sample where possible. That being said, there's a lot more destructive sampling also going on simultaneously, because we've realized that you can get a lot of information out of fossils by doing damage to them. So a lot of people now use CTs to create a digital archive of said fossil. So if you do something to it, like take a chunk of it out to do research on it, you can reconstruct it easily enough after the fact. So it's just a balance. Gang, I don't know if you wanted to sign yourself up for Dinosaur Dig in the US. That's what's in a Google Doc. So we talked about it before as people were interested where you could go on digs, what you needed to do, what the processes were, what it was like. The Google Doc is a sign up for Kerry Woodruff, who I don't know where he's at, but he was Museum of the Rockies for a while. They're then heading out to I forget where it was, Montana, Wyoming, somewhere up in the north for some of their field season. I think they said Colorado for the second half. So if you're interested, the details of what you to expect on the site, work-wise and everything, and his information to contact him if you're keen, is all there. That's what the Google Doc is. It's just sharing some information if anyone's keen to go dig in for dinosaurs. But I am also acutely aware that if you don't happen to live in the US, it's a fair trek to get there for it. But it's free, effectively, once you're there. They feed you, look after you. So just extra information for people to be aware of. But yeah, we've got a few people here. I'm going to do the shameless plug again. I'm sorry for everyone who's heard it 1,000 times already. But got fossil giveaway going on at the minute. We're awfully close to hitting 250 subscribers, probably in the next couple of days, so we'll definitely be giving away some ammonites. To get yourself entered, just comment on one of the last videos, or even on this one when it goes live as an actual video rather than a live. Say your favourite find, favourite prep from my channel, give a link to the video, or even just say which video it's in. That gets you entered. I'll ship you an ammonite from Yorshire worldwide for free. That's the way of saying thank you. So, there you go. Shameless plug. Now I've done that, I'll go back to prepping. But yeah, so Mr. Landfill, with regard to the CT stuff, like nearly all of my research is based around digital fossils. And I say digital fossils like it's a common term, but it basically just means a digital version of said fossil. And all of my work was on putting muscles on fossils in particular, and trying to figure out how animals were moving, feeding, based on the digital versions of themselves. So that was my background, and so that's why I'm quite familiar with CT fossils and that stuff. What you guys will also see more of down the line on the channel is stuff that Mam Lambo started getting really into, where he's doing surface scanning. I've got access to a good surface scanner in the York Paleo Hub group, which is near where I live, and people I'm working with when my PhD student is. And they have a nice surface scanner, and so I'll surface scan some of the fossils and hopefully produce some 3D models that can then stick up online and people can then have a look at in 3D and see what it looks like. And if you have access to a 3D printer, you'll be able to 3D print them. But also, I never really asked, how's everyone doing? I hope you're all doing well. I know it sounded like Mr. Lanto had the best news of the bunch. Doc said he's doing well and is good to go for hopefully some more adventures. But I hope the others of you who are here are doing well as well. So I'm getting awfully close to the limit of what I can do with this tool without running the risk of banging this fossil. So I might have to change the tip after all the effort of trying to keep the damn thing in. It's going to have to come off very shortly. Yeah, that's where I'm just going to pause it for a second. I'm going to try and just catch a quick drink. I will swap the tip over whilst I'm thinking about it. So yeah, the goal, where are we at? We got time, yeah, okay. So this is the one we've been working on. It's done what I call roughing it out. So you can see we pretty much got all the edges. The bit in the middle is getting a bit narrow. This is one I did the other day. I've roughed it out to not a dissimilar spot. So we'll just change the tip and have a look. And then how do I feel about 3D print fossils? I have no issue with it. The biggest concern most people have, and I talk about most people, it's most collections have about them, is that people could turn them into a commercial entity and therefore make money that the institutes, particularly universities and museums, often really are desperate for. so they don't like their specimens being 3D printed if they can't make money off of it. I mean, I've got some 3D printed material. I've got 3D printed skulls of a couple of fossils I worked on. So, I mean, I definitely love them. I think it's the best way to show off a fossil. And where we would normally and historically have made a cast of the object, by 3D printing, we actually don't need to have the risk to the fragile fossils. So fossils, when they're getting cast, are basically submerged in whatever the substance is, normally silicon, that goes around them, and then they get peeled out of it. And then you get the leftover hollows where the fossils were. But by 3D printing, you don't have to do that step. And so you can just 3D print the fossil. And if it's a particularly fragile fossil, what you then get is no risk to the fossil whilst then having the 3D printed version. And if you've done the work with a CT or something like that, you then will get structures potentially inside the fossil or inside the nodule, whatever it happens to be, that you don't get from a normal prepared fossil. So it has a huge amount of advantages to it. So I don't know, I've struggled to find reasons that people wouldn't like it, other than I know the commercial side, and it's the commercial side that most museums get a bit twitchy about, because they don't want, say myself, to get an X-ray or a CT of their fossil to then 3D print it or mass 3D print it and then sell those things. So I can understand that. They all are generally really desperate for funds, particularly for doing things like fossil collections. So you can understand why they would much rather be doing that themselves if anyone's going to be doing it. But I don't see why they couldn't, other than it just costs time and money. Yeah, let me just grab a drink, and then I'm going to switch the tip out, and I will be right back. Also, I was just trying to see, how blurred is this at the minute for you guys? Because, yeah, the focus is about there, isn't it? Alright, let me just adjust that too, because why not whilst we're here? But yeah, if anyone's got any more questions about it, I'm quite happy. I would talk about 3D fossils and 3D printing till the cows come home. It is I would say, my expertise in effect. And I love it. I've just adjusted the focus, so I don't know if that's made it better or worse, but I think it looks sharper on my computer for where the fossil is right now. So yeah, just bear with me as I grab myself a drink, and I'll be back in a second. Right, it's a bit better. So yeah, I actually really liked, so Anne was talking about 3D printed fossils. I actually really like what Mamlamo did, and some of his viewers who 3D printed them and then painted them as well, so they look exactly like the real fossil. And that's great, and I really love that. Also incredibly useful for doing things like outreach. So when you take, or could take a fossil to a school or to an event where you could have lots of people looking at it, by taking a 3D print instead, or a copy, you're then not risking the fossil. It makes so much more sense to have a 3D print of one, and you can talk about it and you can carry it around, and a 3D print of his crab fossils will be probably in the region of a couple of pounds, whereas his actual fossils will be in the region of tens of pounds. So there's plenty of reasons to take advantage of it if you can. I've got too many things in here. Sorry, bear with me as I just adjust some things in the box. Yeah, I've done a lot of terrible ammonite management at the minute in the box. It's got stacks and stacks of them. I've been trying to get a lot of ammonites prepped up this last week because I've not been able to get to the coast. So I'm trying to get through some of the backlog of many thousands of fossils that are increasingly in the back garden. As we are going to be giving some of them away for our wedding. Our wedding is now in 35 days or so. So trying to make sure that I've got enough fossils that in theory everyone at the wedding could take one if they so choose. And the more good ones I have, the better it is for that. So that's what I'm currently working towards with all of this. And also, I guess, I like collecting. A bit of a hoarder. So that's how it goes. Text can disappear now. There we go. And as soon as I tightened it all up, thought it was super tight. Nope. In theory, these ones don't really matter which way around you put them. The guys at Zoic give a flat section, which is supposed to be where you can then tighten the screw onto, but it doesn't always work. I know Mr. Landfill has made a suggestion for the Loctite, so I'm going to have to look into it because it does get annoying. But for this tip, it doesn't particularly matter which way round it is. So the little flat section, I found actually if you don't try and tighten it onto that, it sometimes tightens better and holds better. Whereas the chisel tip has a directionality, so it's obviously got a flat section, and if you turned it 90 degrees it would have like a very thin section, and that does matter which way around you have it. So. Also bear with me as I try and do this, and I will probably be a little slower responding to messages at this point, but I will do my damnedest, whilst at the same time trying not to upset the dog, who's perpetually walking around wondering who are all these strange people online that I'm talking to and not her. Yeah, and I just love digital fossil work. It's been my life for a long time. So I play with a lot of CTs, a lot of MRIs when I try and do modern stuff as well. So there's a level of how do we understand the past that we will never know. What are the material properties of a dinosaur bone? We won't ever know that, but we can make some inferences. And then with digital versions of them, we can test how much it matters, like material properties, or you give a dinosaur, say, 10% more leg muscles, can it run? Particularly important for things like T-Rex, where everyone has a debate whether or not T-Rex can actually run, or if it's just a really fast walker. And so yeah, the CT scans of virtual fossils, the in silico, as they're called, the on-computer chip versions of them, are great for doing all of that, because also if you mess anything up, you ain't damaging the real fossil. You've got unlimited quantities of it. Kind of the same if you were to take a photo nowadays, would you use a film camera or a digital camera if you got the choice? And I think most people would take a digital camera just because you can take 1,000 photos. It doesn't really make any difference to you. You can then fiddle with it in post on the computer if you need to. You can change the exposure, your lighting. So But yeah, if anyone's really keen on 3D fossils and things, there's a gentleman called Larry Whitmer, or Professor Larry Whitmer, over in Ohio State, I think it is. He's got a cool website, and that shows off some of the work he does, and he's got a cool online collection of digital 3D PDFs, and you can have a look at their research and just download those. And he's also really lovely guy. But his group has been doing like what is the vision of a dinosaur using, again, 3D models from digital sources, whether it be CT or surface scanning. And so can you figure out, for example, what's the range or how much overlapping fields do dinosaurs have? Can we use that to help infer their predator-prey relationship? Like, we know that most predators have forward-facing eyes, most prey items have eyes on the side of their heads so that they can see pretty much all the way around them. So it's things like that they're using it for. It's pretty cool. Not that we have too many questions over which animals are predatory and which are prey, but necessarily more those that are concerned about having to run away quickly. But they also got some stuff on voice boxes for dinosaurs, the flow of air through their nasal cavities. I mean, there's just so much stuff that we're able to now do with technology to help better understand the fossils. It's kind of just scary how much it's changed. My professor, who supervised my PhD, Emily Rayfield, was one of the first to do what's called finite element modeling. It's effectively biomechanics of skulls, to look at how does the skull perform under load, and it helps us to infer performance of the structure. People use it today in engineering to understand how car crashes would work and how strong bridges are and all sorts of things. But she was the first to do that in dinosaurs, and that was back in 2001. So it's not even been that long since some of these tools have come into play. But even what she did nowadays is hilarious in comparison, just because of how much the computing power has changed, how much the scanning capacity has changed, how different we know how things work. And that's not to knock any of her work. Her work was really important and changed the field of paleontology quite a lot. But it's just funny how much digital stuff has changed in 20 years, which I'm sure all of you have seen as well from the other side. It's just thinking like how much your personal computer has changed. Same for how much the science of studying fossils has changed. Yeah, apologies now, it gets to the bit that Andrew stops talking because he's focused on the little tiny details here that get very fiddly. So, looking like it could be quite a decent ammonite, which is why I'm being particularly careful with it. Also where I'd be really excited to get an air scribe just for that little stream of air to help clear this off, because it's very itty very quickly that you can't see exactly what you're looking at because you've got all the dust from the last thing you've just chipped away. And yeah, there's plenty of solutions. I could just be get a little air compressed thing to do it. It's just, again, how much money do I want to invest into a system that I'm hoping I can replace, I would say soon-ish again. Nice fish air pump and a short length of tube. Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure there's a dozen, lots of little shortcut ways to do it. It's just, do I want to go buy myself a fish pump just to do this when I'm hoping to then get an air compressor to do it with an air scribe? Tis the debate. And what is more important to me? And at the minute, I'm generally okay just to suffer this, although it's these last little bits that get really fiddly. Where I normally just have to stop and give it a good rinse and accept that I can't see it. Same as setup with the Henry Hoover. Yeah, so the problem with the Henry Hoover is unless you happen to have a HEPA filter in it, the extraction of the dust then just basically pulls it out of the container and just straight out into the environment wherever your Hoover is. So herein lies your issue, is if you want to use a Hoover or something as your air extraction, A, it'll be doing the dust probably more generally rather than right on your fossil, but B, you then pumping iron-rich dust particles into the air unless you've got a HEPA filter on it somehow. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I try. It's one of those things. I do my damnedest because I'm kind of proud of the work I do. Not perfect, never perfect, but not a bad effort. That there, I'm just going to put aside for a second just because it needs a wash and a scrub to try and get some of that dust off. So you just have to bear with me as I just swap to another one I prepared earlier. I know, I'm becoming like a cooking show on TV. So I'm just going to keep doing this one, and then I'll give them both a rinse and we can see where we're at, because we're also aware that we're rapidly approaching 2 hours worth of me streaming and chatting at people. But yeah, so, and the big one, I'd say I'll go back to it, because that's the thing that I'm most concerned about, is if you're going to do dust extraction, do it properly, and unless you've got a HEPA filter or pumping the air straight to the outside, all you're doing is actually probably aerosolizing and making all of your dust airborne in your environment. And at the minute mine's all contained in theory within a box. So yeah, again, herein lies all my challenges. If I had my dream setup, I'd have a shed with it pumping straight into the outdoor world. I'd have an air compressor rather than a Dremmel. But alas, we are where we are at the minute, and you guys hopefully will get to see all the steps as I transition through, and I can definitely keep you abreast of how it all is going. But yeah, there are some wet-dry vacs and some, I want to say the Class H in the UK they're called. I might be wrong with that, don't quote me. Which again have the HEPA filter, which you could then use quite happily. But at the same time, if I have to do a stream and I'm already talking over the noise of this in the background, imagine fucking a Hoover, or for those of you who are American, a vacuum cleaner on top of this as well. And it could get very noisy very quickly. Yeah, so this one I'm working on now, this ammonite came from Brunswick, and it's just got such a soft matrix. It's just really weird after the last one. It's not wrong or anything like that. It's just so soft in comparison that it's taking a little bit of just tweaking how hard I'm applying any pressure, because it just, as you see there, just really soft. It doesn't take much force at all. I'm told this is what ammonites from Dorset coast are more like. Or I say ammonites, the matrix from Dorset's more like, that it actually comes away with even a Dremmel, whereas Yorkshire, it's a struggle. Although every once in a while you get one of these ammonites, which everything just kind of is sort of a sandy matrix in comparison. It just pops away. So I was just trying to make sure that how I've been doing it. Sorry, just bear with as I rotate things around. But the flip side to this is also, as you see, it generates a lot of dust as well, just quicker. bear with me as I go old school. Who needs a fish pump when you've got a toothbrush? The matrix is looking alright. Yeah, old school tools to do a job that, yeah, I could get a solution for that would work better long term, but as I said, would love just to skip having to figure out lots of solutions for the Dremel when I'm hoping the Dremel's going to be less than a year left before I up and off of it. But we'll have to see. But it's nice that some of these doesn't require a lot of thinking. They just work. Like everything you get told about prep, when you just like you let the tool do the work, and when you get a fossil that you can, even with a Dremel, just let it do the work, and you don't have to apply any pressure, and it just pops, and it's just so nice. And if you hear that noise there, that's just where I got poor control of the back of the Dremel, and it's just tapping the glass lid on the box. Don't worry about it, it's just me being useless. And every once in a while you hear it because the Dremel cord gets a bit wrapped up, and so every once in a while I get the Dremel cord on the roof of the box and it makes the same noise as well. Well, apologies if you hear dog barking in the background. That is dog barking. I don't know what she's barking at. She's in an enclosed back garden out there, and it's not her trying to get back in because the door is open, so I don't know what she's barking at. You know, usual dog ghosts chasing that they do. I don't know if anyone else has got a dog that's like ours, like every evening, let her out at night. Absolutely nothing out there. You know it, she knows it, she still barks. Just to say, this is my back garden, I'm here. So yeah, always the way. He's still barking. What are you barking at? Hopefully nothing too important. Hopefully no intruders or anything like that. I'll go check in a second. No, she's come back inside. It can't have been that important. What are you barking at? We're getting there. So that's where we're at with both of them at the minute. Didn't leave that one. My eyes are starting to go, so I'm going to give these both a good rinse. And no, I haven't tried cutting or polishing any of the fossils. I know they cut and polish really well in Yorkshire, where they can do. So a large number of them. Let me just check if I happen to have any in this ridiculous box full of fossils at the minute. Oh, sorry, I was just looking. I was trying to figure out what I've got and all the nodules in here. That's a coprolite. So, an amorphous blob of fossil poo. Although there's probably some little bits in it. There's some black lines, which might be something interesting that I'd have to look at. But no, some of them. You can see calcite chambers going through them, so you'd know very well that they will cut and polish really nicely. Where goes? Sorry, I'm just having a look through all of the various stacks of them I've got knocking around here. I've got too many. No, can't find one to hand. Apparently I don't have any of the section ones nearby. Nope. Oh, actually, here we go. There's one. Too many rocks. Too many rocks. Yeah, so this is exactly what you're talking about. So, I mean, not great that it's done it, but so you can see here, for those of you who can't, or you don't know what Anne's talking about. So, ammonite, I hit it with a hammer. It's split, but it's broken this side off, basically. So this side is over here, and you can see it here. But in this section here in particular, and you can see the counterpart here, it's got this white color to it. And this white color is calcite. And so what we tend to find, not always, but often in the Yorkshire ones, is the outer layers have the shell on, then you get like a pyrite layer. Not always, you sometimes just get a pure calcite layer, and then you get calcite through it. And so each of the chambers then is calcite infilled. And so you can often find sections of ammonite that just cut through, and it just the calcite chambers. And so you can cut and polish them. And I know the Yorkshire Fossil Hunter, I think it is, regularly puts them up on to the Facebook page, and he's got really nice results. Obviously, he's using a proper saw for it. And yeah, if you've had good results with sandpaper, I'm not surprised. I imagine it's just a lot of grunt work to do it, to polish one of these down, or if you get a probably good, not one with a lot of shell on it, but yeah, if you get a nice one to actually polish, it's probably well worth the time and effort to do it properly. So let me just go give these a rinse, and I'll come back and we can finish the chit chat. So just bear with me as I disappear for a second. so that's where we're at. When you can see the nice color on the ammonites when you give them a rinse to get rid of some of that grey. 10 minutes with each grade of paper going up to 1200. Yeah, were yours I say pre-sliced, but did you find them on the ground already with the calcite visible, or did you take one that's got some pretty rubbish shell and just polish that down? Yes to which, or both, I guess would also work as a yes. So yeah, there's no reason that it shouldn't work. I imagine you'd find a lot of people who could use the commercial polishing wheels or something like that. Already showing the calcite, yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, and I know there's plenty of commercial polishing wheels and things out there which would probably be really worthwhile. Again, on the long list of many things I'd love to have, I have looked for a lapidary saw, which is the correct saw for doing this stuff. They move very slowly and cut really nicely. And so you could then take any of these and just slice them with a lapidary saw and then polish down the top like you did with the sandpaper or again with the polishing wheel. And that'd be lovely. I've not done it, but as I said, I know you can, and nice that you've had success with it. On the long list of things, hence the fact that I can tell you what the type of saw is called, a lapidary saw, because I've been looking. But again, not my priority at the minute. Priority is to see if we can get myself a proper air scribe first, then possibly, well no, it'd be air scribe, then air abrasive, then probably a lapidary saw. So quite a long way down the list of things that I have as priority. That being said, honestly, I still think they're beautiful. I mean, I've got coasters that are like a fossil marble, and I think again you could probably make a really nice set of coasters with ammonite slices. I think would just be beautiful. Yeah, so I do apologise. I'm not going to finish either of these ammonites today on stream. My eyes have started to go, and as you can see, we're down on the nitty gritty of both of these. They're looking pretty good. Right, we go quite a far way into them. The middle seems to be pretty much all there so far. So that was the one we spent most of the time on today, and I think that one's going to be in good shape. Yeah, so Mr. Landfill's also having the same joy. I think it'll be probably easier in the States to find a source for it than it is in the UK. But I don't know. I've seen... sorry, I'm just trying to think. Wild Kyle goes out... So Wild Kyle YouTube channel goes out fossil hunting regularly with a guy called Paleo Chris. So Paleo Chris has got the YouTube channel. And he's got a saw that I see them use regularly for their geodes and fossils. So he might not be a terrible one to reach out to, Mr. Landfill, as far as stateside as things that they've got, because obviously they figured out how to do it, and I've seen them using it on fossil things. But yeah, it's just really cool, and it's also very interesting seeing him do his prep, because they're doing it with a wheel with like no real protective stuff, because the wheel's spinning at such a slow speed, because it's a polishing wheel effectively rather than a cutting saw. But it gets through the rock the same way. Oh yeah, you watch Paleo Chris, so you know, you've seen it. So yeah, his stuff's really cool as well. And yeah, you'll have seen that saw then that they use to do their geodes. So yeah, that's where we're at. Two reasonably nice ammonites coming. I've got high hopes for both of them. So this one, we've got, I'm going to go outer, next, and I can actually see one more inside that. So we're down to pretty much the center in terms of how many should be there. This one we've got outer, this one is visible. That goes around to there. And I can't see anything further. So we'll be pretty close to the middle, even if it's not there. So both have a lot of hope and promise for when I just get back to finishing them up. I don't know if that'll be tomorrow or possibly next week, but I do apologise I'm not finishing them today. My eyes are going, and I don't want to mess up one, having spent 2 hours playing with this one today, and another hour and a half on this one previously. So I do apologise, but that's where I'm going to leave it. I appreciate all of you being here and watching as always. I will put the big shout out again, as if you have yet to sign up to the fossil giveaway on the YouTube channel, please do. Just get yourself a free ammonite. There's quite a lot of selection of the ammonites that are available to give away. Just having a look at which ones I've got. I've got a variety of them, of different shapes, sizes, colour, preservation. I will ship them worldwide. Just have a look on my YouTube channel for the giveaway thing. It tells you what you need to do. I'll tell you again, it's just either on this one or the two previous Port Mulgrave fossil hunting videos. Just say what your favourite fossil that you've seen me find or prep is. Cheers everyone for watching this landfill, and always a pleasure to have you around. Everyone else who has joined, like Mike, I do appreciate it. And I know there's a bunch of other people who have come and gone throughout. I will be back possibly tomorrow, possibly on the weekend, I'm not sure which, but one day fairly soon. And I'll also have a new video going up hopefully tomorrow if it passes the sanity check. So thanks everyone, and I will catch all of you very soon.